Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Stotta Shatashi Shrimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki. Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki. Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayat Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Srishtam. So we're reading from Canto 4, chapter 24, verse 64. Srishtam svashakte damanu pravishtash Chatur vidham puramatma atmangshakena ato vidustang purushang santamarata ato vidustang purushang santamantar Punkte Rishikair Madhusaragamyaha Srishtang Svasakte Damanu Pravishtas Chatur Vidhang Puramatmang Shakena Ato Vidustam Purushang Santamantar Bhunkte Rishikair Madhusaragamyaha. Srishtam Svashakti Damanu Pravishtash Okay, so we'll go through the word for word translation. Srishtam, in the creation, Swashaktya, by your own potency, Idam, this cosmic manifestation, Anupravishtaha, entering afterward, Chatuvidham, 4 kinds of, Puram, bodies, Atma Angshakena, by your own part and parcel, Ato, therefore, Viduhu, know, Tam, him, Purusham, the enjoyer, Santam, existing, Antaha, within, Bhunkte, enjoys, Rishikai, by the senses, Madhu, sweetness, Saragham, honey, Ya, one who. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. My dear Lord, after creating by your own potencies, you enter within the creation in 4 kinds of forms. Being within the hearts of the living entities, you know them and know how they are enjoying their senses. The so-called happiness of this material creation is exactly like the bee's enjoyment of honey after it has been collected in the honeycomb. Purport. The material cosmic manifestation is an exhibition of the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because dull matter cannot work independently, the Lord Himself enters within this material creation in the form of a partial expansion, Paramatma, and He enters also by His separated parts and parcels, the living entities. In other words, both the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead enter into the material creation just to make it active. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 5, Apareyam itastvanya, prakritim vidhime param, jiva bhutam mahabaho, yayedam dharyate jagat. Besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind, which consists of all living entities who are struggling with the material nature and are sustaining the universe. Since the material world cannot work independently, the living entities enter into the material manifestation in 4 different types of bodies. The word Chaturvidham is significant in this verse. There are 4 types of living entities born within this material world. Some are born by way of an embryo, Jarayuja, by way of eggs, Andaja, perspiration, Swedaja, and like the trees, by way of seeds, Udbija. Regardless of how these living entities appear, they are all busy in the pursuit of sense enjoyment. The materialistic scientists' contention that living entities other than human beings have no soul is nullified herein. Whether they are born through an embryo, eggs, perspiration, or seeds, all living entities in the 8.4 million species of life are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and each therefore is an individual spiritual spark and soul. The Supreme Personality of Godhead also remains within the heart of the living entity, regardless of whether the living entity is a man, animal, tree, germ, or microbe. The Lord resides in everyone's heart, and because all living entities who come to this material world do so in order to fulfill their desire for sense enjoyment, the Lord directs the living entities to enjoy their senses. Thus the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knows everyone's desires. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto, matasmritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Remaining within the hearts of all living entities, the Lord bestows remembrance by which the living entities can enjoy certain things. Thus the living entities create their enjoyable honeycombs, and then enjoy them. The example of the bees is appropriate, because when bees try to enjoy their honeycomb, they have to suffer the bites of other bees. Because bees bite one another when they enjoy honey, they are not exclusively enjoying the sweetness of the honey, for there is also suffering. In other words, the living entities are subject to the pains and pleasures of material enjoyment, whereas the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing their plans for sense enjoyment, is aloof from them. In the Upanishads, the example is given of two birds sitting on a tree. One bird, the jiva, or living entity, is enjoying the fruits of that tree, and the other bird, Paramatma, is simply witnessing. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verse 23, the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma is described as Upadrashta, the overseer, and Anumanta, the permitter. Thus the Lord simply witnesses and gives the living entity sanction for sense enjoyment. It is the Paramatma also who gives the intelligence by which the bees can construct a hive, collect honey from various flowers, store it, and enjoy it. Although the Paramatma is aloof from the living entities, he knows their intentions, and he gives them facilities by which they can enjoy or suffer the results of their actions. Human society is exactly like a beehive, for everyone is engaged in collecting honey from various flowers, or collecting money from various sources, and creating large empires for common enjoyment. However, after these empires are created, the bites of other nations have to be suffered. Sometimes nations declare war upon one another, and the human beehives become sources of misery. Although human beings are creating their beehives in order to enjoy the sweetness of their senses, they are at the same time suffering from the bites of other persons or nations. The Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma is simply witnessing all these activities. The conclusion is that both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Jivas enter into this material world. However, the Paramatma or Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipable because he has arranged for the happiness of the living entity in the material world. Because it is the material world, however, no one can enjoy any kind of happiness without inebriety. Material enjoyment means inebriety, whereas spiritual enjoyment means pure enjoyment under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'll just read the translation once more. My dear Lord, after creating your own potencies, you enter within the creation in 4 kinds of forms. Being within the hearts of the living entities, you know them and know how they are enjoying their senses. The so-called happiness of this material creation is exactly like the bee's enjoyment of honey after it has been collected in the honeycomb. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyaham Shri Guruhu Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Amha Vadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvashe Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prajarine Nirvishesha Shanyavari Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshir Dhrunatistati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutanam Yantra Rudhani Mayaya And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that he is the super soul in everyone's heart. Everyone is wandering throughout so many universes. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavana Jeev. All of these jivas are, going all over the place, seeking some kind of satisfaction in the material creation. And it's explained by Narad Muni that these 8.4 million different species of life, they are actually the residences. The Supreme Lord creates these species under the supervision of the material modes of nature, so that when he enters into this material world to accompany his parts and parcels, he has a place to stay. So every physical body which is considered like a machine upon which the living being is operating, all of their subtle, experiments with material nature. These physical machines, which are made of pus, blood, urine, right, bones, semen, skin, muscle, fat, all of these different combinations of material elements, right? The prana is the life air, the heat in the stomach, Vaishvanara, Bhutva, is the fire, element of fire, and the gates in the body are like the small microcosm of the total material element of ether. So all of these different elements, the 5 elements and the 3 subtle elements, are all present in each body. Even the false ego, I was just reading recently, this false ego which we're all trying to battle with so much, this sense of I and mind. To become a devotee we have to get beyond that and become surrendered to Krishna as his servant, right? Wake up to our original position. This false ego is also just a tiny little part of the total material energy. So yogis actually, they meditate. It's explained that to overcome envy, which I think Prabhupada touched on here, right? This competition between the bees in the beehive, constantly biting each other, competing for resources. If we want to overcome this suffering caused by competition with other living beings, we can meditate on perceive this tendency to discriminate between good and bad, and we can merge that with the mind. After merging this discriminating tendency with the mind, so anytime that you're seeing good and bad, you've just see that's just the mind operating. That's not me. Then you merge the mind with the false ego. So this mind which is going crazy, right, causing so many disturbances to our meditation, you just merge that mind with the false ego. So that mind is just simply the false ego doing its thing. And then once you've done that, you can merge the false ego with the total mahat tattva, the total material energy. So this false ego which we're struggling with so much, it has nothing to do with the soul. It has nothing to do with us. And it doesn't even belong to us. It's just a tiny little portion of this total material creation which we're just visiting temporarily. So yogis, they very mechanically, they can go through that process of merging these different things together to sort of, think that they've achieved some kind of enlightenment. They've achieved some freedom by their own endeavor. And Prabhupada explains that simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, the devotee immediately achieves the same platform. And not only that, they develop love for that supreme personality of Godhead. So, Yantra Rudhani Mayaya, we're all wandering through so many births. It's explained, Purusha Prakriti Stohi, like why are we here? Why are we going through all of this? Because we're trying to be the Purusha, we're trying to enjoy the Prakriti, this material energy, which actually belongs to Krishna. So Purusha Prakriti Stohi, Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Gunan. Because of that desire, we have taken so many births in this material nature. Purusha Prakriti Stohi, Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Gunan, Karanam Guna Sangosya. And this is the cause of Sadasad Yoni Janmasu, taking birth in so many material bodies. And these bodies are made or influenced, right? Created by different combinations of the material modes of nature. So I thought we could jump back to, just to set the context for this whole Rudra Gita, which we're nearing the end of, because Prabhupada gives such a beautiful description of, Lord Shiva even mentions, right, that the so-called happiness of this material creation is exactly like the bee's enjoyment of honey after it has been collected in the honeycomb. I remember when I first came to Krishna consciousness, online I read, I think it was like some Bhakta Godhead article I just stumbled across online somehow, and it was one devotee just exploring how devotees are like bumblebees. And I thought, I didn't know much about Krishna consciousness at the time, and I found it kind of silly, a bit strange to be saying that devotees are like bumblebees, but he gave loads of reasons. I haven't been able to find it since, so I kind of have to come up with my own reasons now. But I remember soon after that I came for my first morning program at the temple, and around 5:30, 5:15, this strange phenomenon happens every day actually. If you come to the temple you'll see it. The devotees, they actually do turn into bumblebees. You see these beautiful flowers, 2 beautiful flowers in the middle of the temple room, and the devotees, they start buzzing when these flowers come out. They start Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram. And they start circling these flowers in a very strange way, right? So these devotees turn into bumblebees. And it's beautiful actually, even, it's explained that devotees, as we cultivate more love for Krishna, we develop his qualities. And Krishna is the supreme bumblebee. He's Tribhuvana Kamanam Tamala Varnam Ravi Kara Gaura Varambaram Dadhani. His complexion is like that of a tamal tree, very dark, bluish color. Prabhupada explained, I had never noticed this before, but sometimes very dark black hair, when it catches the light, it has this bluish sheen to it. If you really look for it, you can see there is a bluish light that comes from dark hair. In the same way, Krishna has this bluish, blackish complexion, Shyam Sundar. And Ravi Kara Gaura Varambaram Dadhane, his dhoti, which he's always adorned with, is effulgent and glowing like the rays of the golden sun. So here is this blackish, bluish, golden form, Krishna, right? So the devotees, absorbed in meditation on this beautiful form, like a bumblebee, like the supreme bumblebee. And we hear in the Srimad Bhagavatam many beautiful descriptions of these serene kind of settings where the black or the blue lotus appears and the bumblebees swarm to receive the nectar. Dhruv Maharaj prays, Bhaktim muhu pravahatam tvai me prasango bhuyar ananta mahatam amala shayanam Yainanja solbanam aruvyasanam bhavabdim neshye bhavad gunakatam ritapanamataha. So he says that, when he has darshan of the Supreme Lord, he begs, he prays that he's always in the association of these bumblebees, these devotees, because in their association he's becoming mad, drinking the nectar of that katha, that katamrit is making him panamataha. He's becoming maddened by hearing these sweet, sweet pastimes. It's explained that Lord Balaram, like Lord Nityananda, would become intoxicated sometimes, maddened by drinking this Varuni nectar, right? So Prahlad Maharaj also says that Yasanga labdham nijavirya vaibhavam tirtam husam sprashatam himanasam Haratya jonta shruti bhir gatongajam kovayana seveta mukunda vikramam. Who wouldn't want to serve those devotees, right? Those bumblebees, who, by being in their association, one gets to hear constantly the purifying pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And he goes on to explain that one has to repeatedly bathe, right, in the waters at the holy places in order to purify the mind. This is called prayaschitta. One has to repeatedly purify oneself of all of these contaminations in the mind. But just by once associating with a devotee, one is completely freed from all of this contamination. So this is the position of the bumblebees of the Lord, right? I'll just quickly go through that description that we hear of the lake where Lord Shiva is describing or instructing the Prachetas. While traveling, the Prachetas happened to see a great reservoir of water, which seemed almost as big as the ocean. The water of this lake was so calm and quiet that it seemed like the mind of a great soul, and its inhabitants, the aquatics, appeared very peaceful and happy to be under the protection of such a watery reservoir. In that great lake there were different types of lotus flowers. Some of them were bluish and some of them were red. Some of them grew at night, some in the day, and some, like the Indivara lotus flower, in the evening. Combined together, the lotus flowers filled the lake so full that the lake appeared to be a great mine of such flowers. Consequently, on the shores, there were swans and cranes, chakravark, karandavs, and other beautiful water birds standing about. So here we hear a very beautiful description of some of the lotus flowers and the birds and aquatics that appear at the lake. There's no exact description of the name of the lake, it seems, but it says that it appears like a great big ocean, and it was calm and quiet like the mind of a great soul. Similarly, there's a lake, Manasa Sarovara, which Lord Indra takes shelter of when he becomes disturbed by sinful reactions. So it's explained that when we offend a Vaishnava, this is very, very severe. We were just hearing from Namamrit this morning that one needs to protect the kripa, this little vine. So many plants and animals today. It's very nice. This is the kripa of bhakti, which is growing in the garden of our hearts. It needs to be fenced off and protected from dangerous creatures. And the weeds of jnana and karma need to be uprooted so that they don't hamper the growth of this bhakti lata bij, the seed of the creeper of devotion. And what is that bad, animal which comes to destroy our bhakti kripa? It is the elephant, the mad elephant, which is none other than Vaishnava Parad. So it's interesting actually. I think for every animal we hear about in Krishna consciousness, there's a negative metaphor which we can use to meditate on. We do not want that big mad elephant to come and smash our devotional kripa. We do not want to perform Vaishnava Parad. But at the same time, there's that very beautiful description in Chaitanya Charitamrita of another intoxicated elephant. On the Ratha Yatra festival, Mahaprabhu is having darshan of this beautiful Supreme Lord, Lord Jagannath. And many men, big strong men, are required to carry Lord Jagannath from the altar to the Ratha cart. And he's very, very heavy, right? Krishna is heavier than the heaviest. So many, many men are required. And it's explained that as they're carrying him, he is sort of swaying like an intoxicated elephant. And they have placed, he's so heavy, they can't carry him all in one go. They've placed these big white cushions, at intervals on the distance up to the Ratha cart. So every so often they have to, drop this great big heavy Lord Jagannath onto this big white pillow. And every time it happens, there's this big cracking sound, right? The pillow rips open, bearing the huge weight of Lord Jagannath, and white cotton is bursted into the sky like a big explosion, right? Such a beautiful image to meditate on. This big intoxicated elephant, Lord Jagannath, with every step sending up a big crack of white cotton into the sky. So this is one other mad elephant that we can meditate on. And just like the bees who are simultaneously, the bees who are the devotees drinking the nectar, flying everywhere looking for that sadhu sangha, where they can drink the nectar through the ears of Krishna Katha. On the other side, there are the materialistic bees who are trying to take some sukha from the anitya asukha loka, right? The impermanent world of suffering. So these materialistic bees are trying to get some happiness and pleasure here in the material world, and they're struggling very hard. Prahlad Maharaj, what's that? Prahlad Maharaj prays or instructs us, Matirna Krishna paratat svatova mitobhipadiyeta graha vratanam adanta gobhir vishatam tamishram punat punascharvita charvananam. So even if they get some happiness here in this material world, it's very, very foul, actually. He explains that because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress toward hellish conditions, tamishram, and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Right? Charvita charvananam. So everything that we can experience in this material world has already been experienced by someone before. And we're simply just getting the remnants of some very fleeting, unsatisfying pleasure, some contact with the senses, with the sense objects. But that happiness which is derived in the heart of the devotee, when they are connected with the loving reciprocation of the Paramatma, the Supreme Lord, that is eternal bliss, and it is ever increasing. Right? Krishna is Nava Yovanam. He is an ever youthful, ever fresh, beautiful Kishore. Right? So, I was hearing a lecture by His Holiness Tamal Krishna Swami Maharaj. He was explaining that just hearing an exalted Vaishnava like him speak, it's crazy. It's even just such a simple concept of the Paramatma being an expansion of the Supreme Lord. We hear that 1,000 times. But just hearing him say it, with such conviction, with so much knowledge behind him, it just hit me for the first time that this Paramatma which is here in your heart, right, which you're constantly trying to connect to through your meditation, through your devotional service, this is just a reflection, just an expansion of that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is a real person, who exists somewhere, right? Goloka eva nivastati kalatma bhuta. The Supreme Lord is up there in Goloka Vrindavan, right? And He expands Himself, right? He gives like a sun, right? There's the localized globe, and from that globe, the sun, emanates the sunshine. So the globe is explained to be like Goloka Vrindavan, and the sun god Surya Narayan is like Krishna himself, Swayam Bhagavan, who is a personality existing there, who we can go and see and speak to and engage in loving pastimes with if we become qualified. And from that sun emanates the sunshine. So this is like the bodily effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti, which emanates from the Supreme Lord. And if that light was to hit, like a little jewel, the sun itself would become visible in that little jewel, like a reflection. So all of us living entities are like little crystal balls, capturing a reflection of that Supreme Lord. He expands into all of our hearts. And it is non-different, right? This Vedanti tattva vidas, tattvam yagyanam advayam, right? Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. That supreme truth is referred to as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan by different transcendentalists. But all three are non-different, right? So, although this Paramatma which we're all connecting to is just a temporary expansion of Krishna in the material world, right? Still, He is non-different from this Swayam Bhagavan Himself. Simultaneous oneness and difference. So we can have a unlimitedly blissful relationship with this Paramatma, and by so doing, approach the Supreme Lord Himself. Hare Krishna. Please bless me. So, further along, we're hearing about Lord Indra, right? So he takes shelter of another lake that resembles the mind, Manasa Sarovara. Because Lord Indra, he has committed this Vaishnava Parad. He has, multiple times unfortunately, just in this one pastime, first his spiritual master, enters the palace where he's staying, very opulent place, and neglecting to welcome him and offer him respects, remaining on his throne surrounded by his associates, Lord Indra continues to enjoy. And so seeing this pride which has entered the heart of Lord Indra, his spiritual master leaves immediately, and Lord Indra becomes immediately aware of his offense. Often this happens with Lord Indra. He's a very exalted Vaishnava actually. He's achieved an extremely high position, and by his pastimes, by his many examples, he shows us if we were to commit an offense, what we should do. Right? So Lord Indra has made many offenses in the Srimad Bhagavatam to many Vaishnavas, which is a very scary thing to do. All of us, including him, are very scared of making offenses. But we can pray to Krishna that, like Indra, we might not be strong enough to never commit these offenses. We can pray to never commit these offenses to the feet of the Vaishnavas. But if we are incapable of that, which I certainly have found myself to be incapable of not offending Vaishnavas, we can pray that at least, like Lord Indra, we can take the necessary steps to immediately apologize to that Vaishnava. Because the worst is when we make that offense and this pride still is keeping us attached to, no, I was right, that devotee, they're wrong, they should apologize to me. And so quickly we watch ourselves glide down back into all of our samskaras, all of these anarthas. So we can pray that we can be like Lord Indra, to immediately apologize to the Vaishnavas that we offend, as well as praying that we never offend Vaishnavas. Right? So Lord Indra, he is looking everywhere for his spiritual master, but he's made himself invisible. Especially to Lord Indra, he's made himself invisible, so he's completely bewildered. And without a spiritual master, the demigods become bereft of all of their potency. So the demons start getting more and more empowered, and we'll find that this happens when we offend the lotus feet of an exalted Vaishnava, especially the spiritual master. That the demons, all of these demons which all of us carry with us, they become much stronger. And the good qualities that we have all disappear. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate sura. A devotee of the Lord immediately manifests all of the good qualities of the demigods. But as soon as we offend a Vaishnava, all of that disappears. And we find ourselves back where we started. Am I still like this? Do I still think these things? Am I still holding all of these things in my heart? They're waiting there for us. As soon as we offend a Vaishnava, that mad elephant comes and destroys our kripa, and we're back there with all of the demons. Right? So the demons get stronger and the demigods are thinking, what do we do? So Lord Indra goes to the spiritual master of the demons, Shukracharya, and begs for his shelter. So then Shukracharya agrees, and they employ him basically to perform. He's becomes like the family priest basically of the demigods. So sort of reluctantly he agrees, and he performs this ritual to send a personality to defeat all of these demons. But being favorable to the demons, as their spiritual master as well, Shukracharya, he is simultaneously favoring them. And so this is basically the appearance of a very great Vaishnava, Vritrasur. And finding this out, discovering this, Indra then cuts the head off of another spiritual master, Shukracharya, and occurs another great Vaishnava aparad. So this time, Lord Indra, he is able to cast off this, brahmaha, this killing of a brahmana, by casting the sinful reactions onto different locations. I can't quite remember all of the details, but I think one is that he casts it on the earth, and so those places where this sinful reaction lands become desert, and this is how desert is formed. Similarly, onto the water he casts the sinful reaction, and you see that anywhere there is water with bubbles on the surface, this is the sinful reaction of killing a brahmana, and anyone who drinks that water becomes poisoned. Different things like that are given. I think the sap which bleeds from trees is also another one. So again, this Vaishnava aparad, he manages to escape some of the sinful reaction, but finally Lord Indra is forced to kill Vritrasur himself. Against his own will, reluctantly, he's forced to kill a Vaishnava, because this Vaishnava is such a strong demon, right? Such a powerful being, actually, Vritrasur, that he's taking down the demigods, and Lord Indra has to face off with his rival, right? But he knows this is such an exalted Vaishnava, and he's like looking in the face of this aparad which is awaiting him, right? He has to now kill a Vaishnava. So finally, the third great offense of Lord Indra, all of the demigods are rejoicing, right? He's killed Vritrasur very slow. I think it took him at least a year, I can't remember how many years, a very long time, just to use his thunderbolt to remove the head of Vritrasur. And finally all the demigods are rejoicing, and Lord Indra is in complete distress. You know, sometimes we find ourselves like that, right? Everyone thinks like, wow, everyone's glorifying you. You're so great. That was such a wonderful, I can't believe you did such nice service. And you know what you did. Internally, you're just waiting for the reaction, right? So Lord Indra, he sees before him sinful reaction, right? Sin personified appear. So there's a description of this very old Chandala woman who is, her limbs are like trembling with sickness, and her garments are covered with blood because she's afflicted with tuberculosis, and she's looking at Lord Indra, staring at him horrified, and she screams at him, "Wait! Wait!" as Lord Indra is running away in complete fear of this sinful reaction. So she chases him across all the planetary systems, right? And Lord Indra is constantly running away. And the king of the demigods is running in fear from this sinful reaction. And what does he do? He takes shelter of Manasa Sarovara. So in that lake, it's described that the lotus flowers on that lake, Lakshmi Devi herself is present within those lotus flowers. And Lord Indra dives into the lake and hides in the fibers of the subtle fibers of the stems of those lotus flowers. And he hides there for 1,000 years, right? Not just 1,000 years down here on earth, but 1,000 celestial years. I wish I could quickly do that calculation for you, but it's a very long time. He's hiding there. And all of that time, right, Agni Dev is coming, knowing where he is, coming and bringing the oblations from all of the yagyas, which, right, the demigods subsist on these oblations in the fire yagya. That is the source of their life. And Lord Indra is there underwater, and so Agni Dev can't get in and give him the subsistence which he needs. So he's starving for 1,000 years, and it's explained that Rudra, because of this tapasya that he's undergoing, Rudra, which is like this tamasic energy, is diminishing, very slowly diminishing all of that sinful reaction. So if we are unable to go and apologize at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava immediately, this is what's waiting, right? A very long, extended punishment. 1,000 celestial years of tapasya Lord Indra had to undergo before he was relieved of that sinful reaction. No longer could he just, cast off this sinful reaction as he did with Shukracharya. So this is another lake upon which lotuses and beautiful animals appear. Maybe we have time, I can quickly just mention one more lake in the spiritual world. We heard about Manasa Sarovara. There is a lake which has been filled by the tears of the most exalted devotees of the Supreme Lord, Mana Sarovara. So Mana is, I've heard it translated as kind of like a sulky mood, when we feel like we haven't been treated properly by our lover, that emotion that comes over us, right? It's like we're not angry at them because we love them, but we're not very happy either. So this is Mana. And there is a lake in Vrindavan called Mana Sarovara. And it's explained that this is another kind of envy as well. So we were hearing, right, every beautiful metaphor of these different animals and lotuses. They have a sort of negative side, the materialistic side, and the spiritual side, which we can also meditate upon. Even envy, actually, jealousy, like that, which is so destructive for our devotional service. In the spiritual world, there is a pure, original form, right? So this world is like a perverted reflection of the original spiritual world. I was just speaking the other day to an impersonalist at the temple. He was asking me a lot of questions, and I was trying to explain this point, like, have you ever seen an upside down tree? Like a tree with roots going up and branches going down? Has anyone here ever seen something like that in this world? Because it does exist. If you go to, again, another lake, if you go to a lake with trees along the shoreline, you can see in the reflection on the water, there is a tree with its branches going down and its roots going upwards. So in the same way, this material world is like that reflection. Right? This material world, the topmost thing in the spiritual world is the bottommost thing here in the material world, right? So that thing which is keeping all of us bound to these bodies, this sex desire, lust, is actually in the spiritual world in its pure form, which is completely selfless. It's a completely other thing, very hard to conceive of when we have so many anarthas. But apparently, the topmost devotees of Krishna experience this topmost form of love, devotion. So in the same way, jealousy, envy has its pure original form in the spiritual world. And sometimes those most exalted devotees of Krishna, they become overcome with this jealousy. They see that Krishna, who is mine, my Krishna, right? When we first come to devotional service, we feel that I am Krishna's, right? I am his servant. But these topmost devotees actually, again, it's like a reflection, right? They see Krishna is mine. And when they see that my Krishna is actually reciprocating with so many other devotees, that jealousy can arise. For us, this jealousy is not something, we shouldn't delude ourselves and think that, I am experiencing mana. When we get jealous of devotees, it's because we are trying to enjoy Krishna. We are trying to enjoy Krishna consciousness. We're turning it into our own sense gratification. And if someone gets in the way of that, we get very materialistically angry and jealous. So we should not confuse ourselves there. But this lake in the spiritual world, is filled with these tears of this transcendental envy. So the bees in the materialistic world are biting each other, envious of each other's, sense gratificatory pleasures, right? This competition for happiness in the material world leads to the biting of the bees. But in the spiritual world, there are bees as well, which are constantly absorbing the most exalted devotees of Krishna in remembrance of him, right? So with that, we can, I think, finish up there. If maybe there's 5 minutes left, we can have some time for any questions or comments, anything anyone wants to add about bees or elephants or lotus flowers or something else. Hare Krishna. All right. All glories to the Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Amal Purana Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan ki, Jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath's bumblebees ki, Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees.